Hey everyone. You know how sometimes it feels like no one's really getting your message? Like you're just shouting into the void?
Oh, yeah, I know that feeling.
Well, today we're talking about something that can really help cut through all that noise and make sure your ideas actually stick with people. We're diving into poster design.
Posters are so powerful.
They really are. Okay, so
Yeah.
we've all seen those posters that are just kind of a mess, right? Like, where do you even start?
Ugh, yeah, you don't want to be that poster. The first thing to think about is who you're actually making this poster for.
Oh, like who your audience is.
Exactly. You got to know your audience because, imagine trying to explain something super complicated with a poster that's full of jargon and technical terms.
Yeah, that would totally backfire.
It would, like trying to explain quantum physics to a bunch of little
Oh
kids.
my gosh, yeah. Total mismatch.
Oh.
Okay, so knowing your audience, step one. What comes next?
Well, next you got to think about layout and structure.
Oh, right, because no one wants to look at a poster that's just a jumbled mess.
Yeah. Exactly. You want to make sure the layout is clear and easy to follow so people actually want to look at it.
So like a good story. A good poster needs a beginning, a middle, and an end. But visually, of course.
Yes. Think of it like a roadmap for your message. Key takeaways should jump out, not get lost in a sea of text.
Okay, so it's all about guiding the viewer's eye and making sure the important stuff stands out.
That's what we call visual hierarchy. What's the most important thing you want people to remember? That should be front and center, bold, eye-catching. Then you can use different sections' headings and visual cues to break down the rest of the content.
Gotcha. Now let's talk fonts, because I've definitely seen some posters with fonts that are just impossible to read.
Oh yeah, fonts are super important.
Yeah.
And the golden rule here is clarity over cleverness, especially for the main text.
So basically keep it simple.
Yeah. Simple, easy-to-read fonts are your best friend, and please make sure the font size is big enough.
Yes. Squinting at a poster is never a good look.
Nope. No one wants to have to pull out their magnifying glass just to read your poster.
Now, what about the title? Can we get a bit more creative with the font there?
Absolutely. The title is your chance to grab attention, so you can definitely use a bolder or more stylized font, but make sure it's still legible.
Okay, cool. So I've got layout fonts. Now let's talk color,
Yes. Color is powerful.
because it can really set the mood or vibe of a poster.
Totally. It's not just about aesthetics. It's about evoking emotions and reinforcing your message. Think about the calming blue of a trustworthy organization or the energetic red of a call to action.
Whoa, it's like color psychology. So how do we pick the right color palette for our poster? Is it a gut feeling or is there like a formula?
Well, gut feeling definitely plays a role, but there are definitely some best practices. First off, contrast is key.
So like you don't want to put a light yellow text on a white background.
Exactly. You want your text to be readable. And then I'd say less is more.
Oh, so don't go overboard with like a million different colors.
Right. Stick to a few main colors, maybe 3 or 4 max. It'll keep your design cohesive and prevent visual overload.
Got it. Okay. So it's like creating a visual symphony with color, where each element plays its part harmoniously.
Exactly. Now let's talk about images and graphics.
Oh yeah, images are a must-have for any good poster. They can be so eye-catching.
They really can. And the most important thing to remember here is resolution is king.
So no blurry pixelated images.
No way. Always make sure your images are high quality and visually appealing. And remember, images can be amazing tools for explaining complex ideas.
Especially when you're working with data or research, right?
Exactly. Like charts, graphs, diagrams can make information way more engaging than just plain text. A picture is worth 1,000 words.
It really is. And sometimes a well-chosen image can make even the most complicated data feel accessible. Okay, so image selection is all about finding that perfect balance between visual storytelling and not overwhelming the viewer.
You got it. Now let's talk about spacing. I know it might not sound super exciting, but it's actually really important.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about the power of spacing.
So think of white space as the visual breathing room for your design. If everything's crammed together, it just feels cluttered and overwhelming.
Yeah, I could see that.
So give your text images and headings enough space to breathe, and your poster will feel so much more balanced.
It's like decluttering your poster.
Totally. And then there's alignment. Consistent alignment, whether it's centering your title, aligning text blocks, or arranging images, makes your poster look more professional and polished.
It's like we're secretly choreographing the viewer's experience with the poster.
Exactly. We're leading them on a visual journey. And speaking of journeys, we can't forget about the call to action. What do you want people to do after they've been wowed by your poster?
Ooh, right, don't leave them hanging.
Exactly. Whether it's visiting a website, attending an event, or learning more, make sure your call to action is clear, concise, and easy to find.
It's like the final nudge to turn passive viewers into active participants. This has been so eye-opening. I feel like I need to revamp all my posters now.
Me too. There's so much more to uncover in the world of effective poster design.
I can't wait to learn more.
Welcome back. Ready for more poster design goodness?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm ready to level up my poster game.
Awesome. So, last time we talked about choosing the right images, but what if you want to create your own images from scratch?
Oh, interesting. Because not everyone has access to like fancy stock photos or design software.
Yeah, right. And sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective.
Okay, I like the sound of that. Simple and effective. What are some ideas?
Well, you can try using everyday objects to create interesting compositions, like arrange some flowers, leaves household items in a visually appealing way, and snap a photo.
Well, that's a cool idea.
You can also experiment with hand-drawn illustrations or lettering.
So it's all about getting creative with what you have on hand.
Exactly. And don't forget about free online design tools. Canva and Adobe Spark are great options.
Oh, yes. Those are lifesavers. They have so many templates and design elements to choose from.
They do. Okay, now let's shift gears a bit and talk about some common poster pitfalls to avoid.
Ooh, yes. Good idea. What are some of the biggest mistakes people make?
One of the biggest ones is trying to cram too much information onto the poster.
Oh, yeah. I've definitely seen those posters that are just like a wall of text. Not good.
Nope. Remember, a poster is meant to be a visual snapshot of your message, not a novel.
You want to pique their interest, not overwhelm them.
Exactly. And speaking of overwhelming people, another big mistake is using a font size that's too small.
Oh, yeah. If I have to squint to read your poster, it's a no from me.
Ha ha ha! Agreed. Make sure your text, especially the title and key headings, is large enough to be read from a distance.
And can we please talk about the overuse of all caps?
Oh my gosh, yes. It's like the visual equivalent of shouting. Please don't do it.
All caps should be reserved for like short bursts of emphasis, not entire paragraphs.
Exactly. And while we're on the topic of readability, let's talk about color choices.
Because some color combinations can be really hard on the eyes, right?
They can. Make sure there's enough contrast between the text and background.
So like light pink text on a white background is a big no-no.
Yeah, that would be pretty much impossible to read. And try to avoid color combinations that are known to clash, like red and green or bright pink and yellow.
Gotcha. It's all about finding that sweet spot between being visually appealing and actually being readable.
Right. And don't forget about the power of white space.
Ah, yes, the visual breathing room for our design.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to leave some areas of your poster blank.
Less is more, a mantra for life and for poster design.
Absolutely. Okay, before we move on, there's one more super important thing to mention, and that's proofreading.
Oh, yes. Proofreading is a must. I've definitely had those moments where I've printed a whole batch of posters only to realize there's a typo. So embarrassing.
Oh, I've been there too. It happens to the best of us. It's always a good idea to have a fresh pair of eyes proofread your work before you print or share it.
Agreed. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground from choosing images to avoiding design disasters. What else should we keep in mind as we start creating our poster masterpieces?
Well, before you unleash your inner poster-making guru, there's one more thing I want to touch on, and that's presentation.
Ooh, good point. Presentation is everything. How do we make sure our posters shine in their final destination?
Well, first consider the context.
So, like, where will the poster be displayed?
Right. What's the lighting like? Is it a busy environment or a more subdued setting?
That makes sense. A poster designed for a brightly lit conference hall might need to be bolder than one intended for a quiet library.
Exactly. And think about how people will be viewing your poster. Will they be standing up close or will they be viewing it from a distance?
Ooh, so viewing distance is important too.
It is. And think about how much time people will have to actually look at your poster.
Gotcha. We need to adjust our design choices based on the context and the viewing experience.
So
Okay.
what else? Pay attention to the physical mounting and framing of your poster.
Oh, right. Because a wrinkled, droopy poster is not a good look.
Definitely not. Use high-quality materials and take the time to mount your poster smoothly and securely. And when it comes to framing, it really depends on the context.
So, like, a frame might be necessary for a formal setting,
Mhm.
but not for a more casual environment.
Exactly. Now, what about digital posters?
Oh, yeah. Any tips for making those look amazing online?
Well, resolution is key. Make sure your image is high-res and optimized for online viewing.
Right, because you don't want your design to end up all blurry and pixelated when you share it.
Nope. And consider the platform where you'll be sharing it. Different platforms have different image size requirements.
Good point. Okay, before we wrap up, I want to touch on accessibility. Are there any design considerations we should keep in mind to make sure our posters are inclusive for everyone?
Absolutely. Accessibility is so important. We want everyone to be able to engage with our posters regardless of their abilities. So, some key things to consider are font choices, color contrast, and alternative text descriptions for images.
So basically, we need to make sure our posters are readable and understandable for everyone.
Exactly. Design isn't just about aesthetics, it's about creating an experience that is welcoming and inclusive for all.
I love that. Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground today. Any final thoughts before we move on to part 3?
Just remember to have fun and let your creativity shine through. Don't be afraid to experiment and break the rules tastefully, of course.
Okay, so we've covered so much ground in this deep dive into poster design. It's amazing how many elements go into making a truly effective poster.
I know, right? It's way more than just slapping some text and images on a page.
Seriously, there's a real art to it.
Yeah.
But it's also super empowering to know that anyone can learn these principles and start creating posters that actually get results.
Totally. And one of the things that's really stuck with me is the importance of those little details like white space and alignment.
Yeah, those can make a huge difference. It's all about creating a visually appealing and easy to follow experience for the viewer.
Exactly. We're basically guiding their eyes through the information without them even realizing it.
I love that. It's like we're secret design ninjas.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And speaking of guiding the viewer, we can't forget about the call to action.
Oh yeah, that's super important. We want people to actually do something after they've seen our awesome poster, right?
Right. So whether it's visiting a website, signing up for an event, or just learning more, make sure your call to action is clear and compelling.
Got it. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are some final words of wisdom you can share with our listeners?
Well, I'd say first and foremost, don't be afraid to experiment. Play around with different layouts, colors, fonts, and images. See what works for you and your message. There's no one right way to design a poster.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
It's all about finding your own unique style.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to break the rules sometimes. Just make sure you're doing it tastefully.
Yeah, like don't go too crazy with the Comic Sans.
Exactly. And most importantly, have fun with it. Design should be enjoyable. So if you're not feeling it, take a break and come back to it later.
Awesome advice. Any other parting words of wisdom?
Just remember to always keep your audience in mind. Who are you trying to reach with this poster? What are their interests and needs? And what message are you trying to convey?
So it's all about connecting with your audience on a visual level.
Yep. A poster is more than just a piece of paper. It's a communication tool, a conversation starter, a way to share your ideas with the world.
I love that. Well, this has been an incredible journey into the world of poster design. A huge thank you to our expert guest for all of your amazing insights.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And to our wonderful listeners, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you feel inspired to go out there and create some amazing posters of your own. Until next time, happy designing.